Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. In today's episode, I solo chat with you about the 8 Dimensions of Wellness, exploring the history and drama of nature's landscapes, and choosing play over achievement. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Writing with Purpose podcast. And in today's recording, I'm solo chatting with you about the 8 Dimensions of Wellness, immersing in nature's preserved history and choosing playfulness over work-based achievement. So quite a bit to get through today. As always, I shall try and stick to around about half an hour. Let's see how that goes. I usually go off at a bit of a tangent for those of you that are regular listeners now, but hey-ho, that's what it is when you get excited about topics that you are sharing with people. So first off, a little bit of business news. I've had several meetings with nutrition experts. So last week I mentioned that I wanted to do some very specific series over the course of the next few months, and the first one I'm going to roll with is nutrition. I love healthy eating. I love learning more about what we eat, what we put into our bodies, how that manifests physically, mentally, and I just like food. So the first session is going to be the first series is going to be 8 different episodes where I'm going to be talking to nutrition experts about something slightly different with food. So we've got some stuff about protein, some stuff about ancestral history of food and nutrition. We've got a lot where I just talk to people and we get some sort of tweakments of how to just make things a little bit easier, a little bit healthier, to involve those in the daily routine. So I'm very, very excited about that coming up. So in business news, I've been talking to people, getting those sessions organised and in the bag so that we can just learn a little bit more about how to eat well, gain the most from the foods that we consume, and then also how to make good decisions based around how we feel about food. And that's certainly something that I've been noticing in my 40s, obviously going through certain changes, I'm sure, but I now know my body responds to certain foods, and I'm taking a lot more notice of that. So I know what aligns with me and what doesn't align with me, shall we say. So I'm very, very excited for that to kick off. There'll be another session, or will there be another 2? Another 1 or 2 solo chatting sessions, and then the nutrition series will kick off. So please do stay tuned for those. It's going to be very, very informative and some easy things that you can involve into your daily routine as far as eating goes. So in educational news, it's master's assignment time. The deadline is this Monday, and I've still got to do a cover title, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this project because it's been very creative. It's kind of similar to what I do in part of my day job, where I have to put together project plans for things, and I've enjoyed the creative side as well, even though I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not an interior designer, but I have to say I am pretty good at Canva. So for those who don't know, Canva is an online bit of kit that helps you to create very pretty graphics. It helps you to create video. It's always developing. I've just signed up to something which they're going to share in May about new features. So, if you like to create your own content, it is a good platform to use. I'll share a link in the show notes if you're not familiar with it. There's no incentive or anything for me to share this. So just have a look and see what you think. I do recommend the paid for version though, if it's something something that is affordable and accessible for you, because you are very restricted in your choice of images and templates and things when you're on the free version. But it is a place to start. So yeah, highly recommend that. And in personal news, it was my birthday last week, and I still love my birthdays. And ever since working for myself from 2009, I've always taken off my birthday. Obviously, sometimes it falls at a weekend, but when it falls on a day in the week, I always have the day off. So it was Friday last week, and the three of us visited Hawkestone Park Follies because it's still in the Easter holidays. So Greta was still off, and I had a couple of days in Wales as well with my partner. But anyway, more on that in the nature connecting section. But suffice to say is I've had a wonderful week, and spring is definitely here. My eyes have started watering and itching. I don't know if anybody else is the same. I never thought that I got hay fever or any allergies or anything like that as a child, but over the last couple of years, my eyes seem to itch a lot, and it's frustrating. So I'm scratching my eye now as I talk, which isn't ideal. So yeah, let me move my fingers and move on. So the first section for this week, writing words for wellness. And last year, while running a series of outdoor workshops with one of my friends, so one of my best friends and colleague, Jo Cotton, I say workshops because we based these around going outside for a couple of hours on a walk, and then we did various activities, solo activities, group activities, where we could just find out a little bit more about our wellness, how we felt in nature, and try to promote that connectedness and the benefits of getting outside, of movement, of fresh air and all that good stuff. But when we ran these, one of the things that we used, one of the models that we used was a strength-based model called the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. And this wellness wheel, if you like, was developed by Dr. Margaret Swarbrick, or Peggy, as I believe she's more well known for, who she's a research professor and psychologist. Now, this model was initially used to support individuals in the recovery from mental health and substance misuse, but nowadays it can be widely used in the field of well-being, and this is something that Jo and I applied on our walks, and it was a good place to start for people to get a bit of a measure of how they felt about their wellness, so their general wellness. And there's 8 aspects to the wellness wheel that people can, anybody can score themselves out of 1 or 10, or any other. It's the word I'm looking for. There was a big pause there as I was just trying to think about something. Actually, no, I paused because a text message just came through on my computer, which doesn't normally happen. So it just threw me a little bit. So I do apologise about that pause, which was probably only a couple of seconds, but it seemed like a couple of minutes to me. Anyway, so yes, 8 dimensions of wellness. And those 8 dimensions are social, emotional, physical, spiritual, intellectual, financial, occupational, and environmental. Now, I will include a PDF of this because we created a PDF for the workshop. So I'll include a PDF so that you can have a look at this in a little bit more detail, because I will refer to it in the journal prompts for this section. But just to expand on those a little bit, the social dimension is developing connections, developing a sense of belonging and a positive support system. So social is all about the people that you connect with and those key figures in your life that are meaningful to you. They provide a positive supportive system. When we think about the people that we connect with, who is it that says it? I'm not sure. I'll have to have a think and then include them in the show notes. But we're more like the 4 people we spend the most time with, it's a very small amount anyway. So it's important to spend a lot of time with positive people that celebrate you for who you are, and not those people that tend to be negative or maybe put you down in some way, or put something that you do down in some way. So it's all about positivity, all about surrounding yourselves with the right kind of people. Emotional is the next dimension. So living in healthy ways and acknowledging and expressing emotions appropriately. Now, negative and positive emotions, they both play a part in our life. It's not to say that you can't get angry or you can't get upset, because there is reasons for those emotions showing, and they are just as important as the emotions of joy and happiness and feeling content. But let's just say that emotions, whatever we're feeling at the time, help to explain, how we're doing, how we're performing in business, in life, with a family, with our friends. So it is important to get a good balance, but also to be emotionally aware and to have good emotional regulation as well. There's, it's not healthy to be in a low and depressive mood all the time. Equally, it's probably not great that you are living on high five all the time either. There is a bit of a balance to be had. The next dimension is physical. So that's appreciating the importance of the physical body, and everything that goes towards having a healthy body and being physically healthy as well. So this will concern good nutrition, sleep, physical activity, all of the things that we do that help us to feel healthy and help us to function optimally with all of our body systems, our limbs, our functions, the things that we are born with. So the fourth dimension is spirituality, so spiritual or our soul. And that's exploring and expanding your sense of meaning and purpose in life. So, it's a little bit more than just what's in front of us. What's the bigger picture? What's the bigger purpose for us in life and with us compared with others and the world? The other dimension is intellectual. So expanding knowledge and skills and being curious about creative abilities. So, the things that we think of, our mind, a positive sense of our mind, our thinking, and just, being always trying to sort of better ourselves in a way. I'm a big believer that every day is an education day. We're always learning. We can never know everything. So, if we feed ourselves with, intellectual resources, positivity, just be a sponge for learning different things. And I'm not just talking about work or professionally here, but, exploring creativity, exploring history, exploring cultural, social dimensions of things, which just help to enhance life in general. So another dimension is financial. So feeling content with your current and future financial situations. Quite often people find themselves stuck in a job that they really don't like, and they're scared to move on. They don't think they're going to be able to better themselves in any way. And quite often it's just a case of having that faith in yourself, taking that leap of faith, and just trying out new things and just doing what it is that you love to do, so that it doesn't necessarily seem like work. Quite often, I think it's so easy now to spend money that people can get themselves into trouble. So, it's a case of being aware of when you're spending beyond your needs, shall we say. And, money isn't everything. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Yes, we need a certain amount of money to obviously live in comfortable conditions, shall I say, but it's not the be end and all. And I would much rather work in a place where I'm happy than somewhere that is giving me a very decent wage but I'm unhappy, somewhere where I have some time that I can spend with family and friends and it's not all work, but also to have the enough financial freedom to be able to just live in a comfortable situation. And that's, everybody is different, of course, but that's my take on that. And occupation. or occupational dimension of wellness, which is finding satisfaction and enrichment in your working day. Now, I just kind of mentioned that under financial, really. So got those two a little bit confused there. But financial and occupational probably are intertwined. In fact, all of the 8 are intertwined. You will probably find that out as you start to look into these in a little bit more detail and explore them in your own journals. But yeah, occupation, making sure that you're happy in what you do as far as the working day is concerned. And I certainly, over the last couple of years, I earn a lot less money than I used to, but I'm a lot happier than I used to be. And I spend a lot more time outside. I spend a lot more time doing the things that I love outside of work. So, it's whatever makes us happier in my eyes. And then finally, the 8th dimension is the environmental. And that is experiencing pleasant and stimulating environments that promote good health and well-being. And I'll move on to this in the nature section as well. But I think just, and nothing's worse than staying in one place, sitting on the sofa all day or never leaving the house, or, going from house to work and then back to the house again. It's a little bit like Groundhog Day. So, the more environments that you can find yourself in, that might just be going to a different coffee shop, having a brew with friends, that might be sitting out in the garden with a book instead of watching the TV, and going on a little walk, ditching the car for a while. You go to the post office, go to the supermarket, just experiencing the external environment around you to help stimulate a positive mood and good well-being. So I've hopefully explained those in a little bit more detail. I will include a PDF in the show notes that you can get access to. But what I would love to do now is just to share some journal prompts. So I invite you to take some time to review these 8 dimensions of well-being and to give yourself a score from 1 to 10, with 10 being the optimal, and have a look at your scores and which dimensions are low and which dimensions are high. Which do you score low on, which do you score high on, and just take a little bit of time to reflect why you think this is the case. And I would suggest that you select 2 dimensions. If you've got some more time, then by all means go through all 8 of these, but just to make it a little bit more manageable, you can do this in chunks. And select 2 dimensions and brainstorm ways that you can improve your score. So how can you get your score up? You might have scored 5, for example, on physical because you feel as though you don't get any form of exercise, or maybe your sleep isn't great, or you don't eat very well. Maybe you score 5 on occupation because you're really not happy in your day job. So brainstorm some ideas. How can you increase your score on those? How can you carve out some time to get a little bit of exercise in, even if it's just half an hour for 2 or 3 times a week? How can you replace some of the less healthy foods that you eat with nutritious foods that are going to fuel you and give you more energy? And then what can you do as far as work is concerned? Is it considering a job move, maybe even a career move, maybe some new training? Maybe it's a case of plucking up the courage to go for that promotion that you've always gone for, but then always step back at the last second and, just go for it. Just see what you come up with as far as your brainstorming goes. And then when you've done that, think about what steps you can take over the coming weeks to implement some of the ways that you've come up with. And then, of course, as I've said before with previous prompts, make a plan and do it. And I'm sure you won't regret it, because the positive outcome, if you do nothing, then you achieve nothing. If you go for something, then at least you've gone through the experience, you've got some feedback, even if the outcome isn't 100% what you would appreciate. There is still feedback that you can review and improve on, so just go for it. And I would also recommend, I invite you to use the model every month and review it by setting new intentions and goals to improve your score in each area. This is all about baby steps. You don't have to go from a 5 to a 10 in 2 weeks' time. That potentially isn't going to help anybody. So just, these micro habits, micro changes, just do your best. And then each one will increase over time, which is a good thing. Okay, so Moving on to the next section, nature, and discovering a nourishing connection with nature. And as I mentioned at the start of this podcast, it was my birthday last week. And on the Friday, we visited Hawkestone Park, Follies. Now, I've been there before, and I've got very, very vague childhood memories of this place because there was a television series produced in now when would this be? Early 90s maybe, that was based on the Chronicles of Narnia, and it was my understanding that quite a lot of the scenes from the Chronicles of Narnia, this television series, was filmed at Hawkestone Park, Follies. And I'd not been for a long time. I knew it was quite it was more of a walking place, but I just had the memories of it being a place for exploration, and I was in the mood for creative exploration in nature. So off we trotted. It was about 50 minutes away, I think, and we ended up on dragon trails. We were searching for trolls in the woods. We climbed a monument which was close to well over 100 steps. But this monument was erected by the Hill family, and it was very windy at the top, but the actual journey to get to the top was a little bit strange because the walls were full of ladybirds. Now that might sound quite cute to begin with, but there were thousands of ladybirds, and we saw the odd one on a step, so we were trying to avoid these ladybirds when we first started, and then we realised they were all over the ceiling, they were all over the walls, and it was a little bit like, some kind of dodgy horror film from the 80s of attack of the swarms of ladybirds or something. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, this place was amazing. We walked around 7 miles, I would say. We enjoyed an ice cream. We took a picnic, which we ate overlooking the Shropshire plains. I think you could probably say the Shropshire plains because it was a lot of fields. It wasn't really that hilly. And we all thoroughly enjoyed it. We felt like proper explorers. And I would highly recommend this place to everybody. I think it cost about £9 for adults to get in. Children were slightly less. It's got a little cafe, little gift shop. There's a couple of toilet stops, and yeah, there was caves. There was fissures in the rocks. There was at every corner you turned, there was something different in front of you, and it was just a thoroughly enjoyable experience. It was windy, but thankfully it wasn't rainy, so we did have a great day. And then I also went to Wales with my partner, and we stayed in southern Snowdonia in an area called Dolgellau. I've probably pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry for the Welsh people and the Welsh speakers. Please drop me an email if you know how to, or voice note even, to let me know how to pronounce that properly. But this place was a little natural gem. The northern part of Snowdonia, I think, is more popular than the southern part, and certainly climbing Snowdon itself. But this area where we stayed was absolutely gorgeous. We took in Powys Castle on the way there, which is a National Trust site, which has got gorgeous landscape gardens, very noisy peacocks, but you can have a wander around some of the castle rooms as well. And it was very lavishly decorated. There was a lot of furniture, a lot of murals in there. It was fascinating. We managed to dodge the rain, thankfully. But the next couple of days were a different story. We did go on a lovely circular path walk, which followed the river Clywydog. Again, I might have pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry if I have. But this route was called the Torrent Walk, which was very appropriate for the weather we've experienced in the UK over the last week. We've had a lot of rain, and on this particular trek, the river was in full force. It was spectacular, actually. There were waterfalls everywhere, and it never ceases to amaze me either how many lovely people that you come across on some of these more remote walks and places, because everyone's just so enthusiastic about nature. And we came across some lovely people, including an old chap who was walking on his own. He'd got his poles, which I believe it is actually better to walk with poles, to walk and run with poles, actually, because you weight distribution, you're helping all of your balance better, and of course you're working more muscles as well. But it's lovely to see other people enjoying the same thing that you are, and who are obviously like-minded individuals. So that was lovely. We took in Bournemouth in the wind. I don't know how forceful the wind was, but I actually struggled to walk forwards at some point. And my partner, bless him, had got shorts on, and his legs were being attacked by grains of sand in the wind. So we didn't last very long on the beachfront. And instead we moved on to Landfair Slate Caves. And went on a self-guided tour through 8 caverns, I think it was, which had been preserved for over 100 years. And it's fascinating to read the history of these places when you consider that a lot of the workers that started as young as 12 years old, they worked from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m., 6 days a week, only had candle to light the way. It's quite different conditions from what we have today, certainly in the Western world. And it's good for writers as well, because it gives you a lot of food for thought, thinking about the ways of ancient times, and it helps with character building, plot development, that sort of thing. So I had loads of ideas over the weekend. We were visiting all of these different sites, and another site included the National Slate Museum in Llanberis. We saw a slate splitting demonstration, which was also fascinating. We went for a walk up the hill around Dinorwick Quarry, which was a very big quarry at the time, employed around about 3,000 men, but it closed in the late 60s. And if you're fortunate to visit this place, I recommend having a wander up the hills to take in the Anglesey Barracks, which are 2 rows of 11 really tiny cottages, one up, one down. There's lots of other building ruins there, and they were built around about the 1870s. So it's very interesting place up there. You can be curious, you can let your mind wander. It was a great place. We saw loads of runners. Also a good place for people who want to paint, creatives, artists, those who have an artistic flair. Great to paint or draw or write, because it was a very dramatic landscape with spectacular views over the lakes beneath us, the mountains above us. We saw Dolbaden Castle, I think it was. We saw snow on the mountains, which I think one would have probably been Snowdon. And it was just utterly breathtaking. And the slate landscape in Wales, I believe, is a World Heritage Site. It gained status in just a few years ago, actually, 2021. And it is absolutely beautiful. I was fortunate enough to hike along half of the Slate Trail last year, which was around about 40 miles. Tough trail, but absolutely beautiful. And personally, when I'm outside in these sorts of environments, I find it very hard not to be impressed by how the natural landscape forms, and even the shapes and contours that have left from human intervention, like the mining and agriculture industries. And I'm just always in awe of the beauty, and spending time being curious and learning about the history of an area, absorbing all those sights and sounds and smells and feels. It just really helps to replenish my energy levels. It's nourishing. Like I've said before in podcasts, for me, that kind of thing is like food. It helps to really fill me up, empower me with energy, and it's just wonderful. So anyway, moving on to your journal prompts for nature, discovering a nourishing connection. I would like you to grab your journal and imagine that you were around 100 years ago, and you were working in a mine or in a quarry or on a farm, and just spend some time free writing. What do you think life would have been like? What was life like for you in that time? Think about the benefits such a time would bring. And of course, remember, it would no doubt be hard work, but it would also be a much simpler time, and one where connection with nature and family and fellow workmates would be very precious. So free write, see where that see where that will take you. No right or wrong in these kind of free writing exercises, but it's a lovely way to just connect with the past, connect with nature, and to be thankful for things. And the next prompt that leads in nicely for the next prompt is, what are you grateful for today that our ancestors played a part in making that happen? So this could be, it could be an environment, it could be legislation, it could be inventions, maybe even products or services. So what are you grateful for today? What do you enjoy today that our ancestors have had a hand in making that happen for you? And I also invite you to research World Heritage Sites or designated areas of outstanding natural beauty that are near you or within, say, an hour's drive of you, or an hour on public transport, and set an intention to explore a few of these this year and have a think about why you were drawn to certain areas over others. So ultimately these prompts are encouraging you to get out there and experience more in nature and more in history. Okay, so moving on to creativity, our section where we can explore our authentic selves in a little bit more detail. And yesterday I read an article in Psyche, which is a newsletter I subscribe to, and the title, it kind of pulled me in. The title was "The Achievement Society is Burning Us Out. We Need More Play." And as you know, if you're a regular listener, I'm all about creative play. I'm all about creativity. And this article was fascinating because it suggests how we, in modern society, how we're addicted to work and what we do for a living, how it shapes our identities, how impactful it is. And yes, it gives us structure and it gives us purpose in our life. So I agree with this. But also from being a previous workaholic and putting work before anything, and that even included my own health in terms of good sleep, socializing, seeing friends and family, eating healthily, then I do believe that this is something that we must take seriously. Now, this article touches on a Korean German philosopher who talked about capitalist society becoming what he called, or they called, an achievement society. And that from our emotional, cognitive and physical exhaustion that comes from the pressure to constantly achieve, and the primary result of that is burnout. Now, I also agree with this. Because twice I've been there, done that, and got the t-shirt. So yeah, it is important to recognise that what we want to achieve isn't always healthy, and by going after achievement after achievement after achievement, if it's not balanced in some way, then it can be to the detriment of other things in our life. So think about those 8 dimensions of wellness that I talked about at the start. So and this kind of makes me think about how we're a work in progress. We are all a work in progress, of course, in all aspects of life, because we're all looking to progress, or hopefully we are in some way. But the danger is that we focus too much attention and time on progressing in work to the detriment of other things. So whether we are employed or self-employed, our work is kind of like a bad smell sometimes hanging around. Technology's made this worse with smartphones and smartwatches and instant messaging apps and devices, because we're constantly contactable. We are constantly putting ourselves out there to be interrupted with things. And, a lot of this is plugged into what we do for work. And this article, it quoted another German philosopher who, Moritz Schlick, from the late 1800s to early 1900s. And this is a quote. He argues that the true meaning in life can be found only in those things that exist for their own sake and carry their satisfaction in themselves, and only in free, purposeless action, which in fact carries its purpose from within itself. So he was basically saying that the true meaning of life can only be found in play and not necessarily in work. And I've touched on creativity, which of course play is part of creativity, being autotelic in nature, which means we enjoy the activity itself. It's the excitement that we gain from the activity and not necessarily any kind of reward that we would receive at the end. So it's not productive or self-developing as such, although I would argue that it helps with self-awareness and rest and recharge. Because creativity does help us just to be a lot more mindful. It helps us to just be more positive, and these childlike actions and activities and behaviours, we've kind of lost the ability to do this, I think. And when we step more into the outfit of work, education, for example, it's all about performing your best in exams, coursework, competing to be the winner in something, and the same when we go into an employment. A job is all about performance, productivity for the company, for the boss, competition as well to get the promotion, the new job. All of that kind of stuff is all centered around achieving the very best that we can. And there's nothing wrong with achieving the very best that we can, of course, but there is that sort of balance and that fine line with when does it start to become a bit more obsessive in things, and it starts to outplay the pleasure that we gain from life. It's not all about work. So it gets me thinking about how many people truly love what they do. And they're not just in it for the wage at the end of the month or the week. And I've mentioned this at the start of the podcast. Yes, we need money to live a modest life, but do we need to bust our guts in doing something every day if we don't enjoy it just because we want some money? And I say definitely not. But what if work could become play? And I'll quote a little bit more from this article here now. What would it mean to live more playfully? First, it would require us to reject work that is not intrinsically motivating and to build working conditions that are joyfully engaging. Second, it would require that we de-emphasize the importance of work for finding personal fulfillment and meaning in our lives. Despite work being central to who we are and how we can make an impact on the lives of others, we overemphasize the centrality of work in our lives at our own peril. Third, it would require a movement away from efficiency and productivity as primary indicators of social well-being. Finally, it would require that we develop the skills and capacities to play, to give ourselves over to those things that are intrinsically motivating, those things that are not overshadowed by the dark clouds of purpose. So that's interesting. There's a lot of thoughts there that you can get stuck into. Do you want to choose playfulness or achievement? And there's a lot of things that I relate to here because I've coming from, as I say, a workaholic position, and including making a conscious effort to bring more play into my life. And I would not necessarily have called this play or creativity as I started on this journey, but to bring more balance to my life, to bring more personal and social elements into my life rather than just work and professional gain. And that brings me to the journal prompts for the creativity section. So grab your journals and I invite you to think about, what did play look like for you as a child? And describe an activity that you remember enjoying and spending hours being enthralled with. And this could be anything, of course. And how did this activity make you feel? And what do you do now as an adult that you could describe as play? Again, there's no right or wrong with any of these. It's just prompts to make you think in a little bit more detail and to try and grasp what it is that you want from life. And make a list of achievements. Review the list and highlight those which are work-based and those which are personal or social-based. And just think about, do you need to tip the balance in any way? And just consider where that thought might lead you. And finally, what ways can you create more play? And how can you reframe the word play or playfulness to remove the unproductive or wasteful time connotations that it has. That's a big factor in why we tend not to play anymore, is that we think it's going to be unproductive, we think it's going to be wasteful, but in actual fact it's the opposite way around. We all need rest, we all need to recharge, and often playful or creative time is the route to achieving that. So good luck in being playful is all I can say on that. And I think that wraps up this episode, because I've talked for longer than 30 minutes. I'm going to have to start these podcasts by saying it's going to be 40 minutes long instead of 30 minutes long, just to manage expectations. So I know some people grab 20 minutes here or there to fit a podcast in, and my doubling time isn't as conducive for that. But I share value, or I like to think that I share value in the journaling prompts and also the stories that I share. So it's certainly worth a listen. So please do sign up to my bi-weekly email newsletter if you haven't done already, where I share even more journaling prompts. The link to do that is in the show notes. And please do subscribe, leave a review. That helps other people to find the podcast and learn something from the little tidbits that I'm sharing. And I will end on a quote, which is by Cindy Francis, which is, accept life as it is, then work to make it the way you want it to be. So thank you very much for listening on this episode, and I will be back with you again next week. Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.